They mocked the bartender, alien guards unaware of his past as Earth's deadliest fighter. The outpost was a bustling hub on the edge of known space, a place where traders, travelers, and bounty hunters from dozens of planets came and went. The sounds of alien voices, mechanical machinery, and the occasional hum of anti-gravity transports filled the air. Yet to Jax it all seemed ordinary. He had been to many such outposts, though this one felt different. Maybe it was the way the sunlight reflected off the polished metal walls, or maybe it was just the crowd, thick and diverse, that always made him pause for a moment and observe. He wore simple clothing, a plain black shirt, well-fitted pants, and sturdy boots. On his back, a worn leather satchel held nothing dangerous, just a few tools, a notebook, and the odd trinkets he had collected over the years. Nothing about him screamed danger. That was the way he liked it. People underestimated him, and that was always to his advantage. The main gate closed with a hiss behind him, and Jax took a deep breath. The scent of roasted alien nuts, sweet fruits, and metallic dust hit him immediately. This place had a unique aroma, a mixture of home and adventure. He adjusted the strap of his satchel and stepped toward the bar at the center of the outpost. The bar itself was a marvel. It was circular, with a polished surface that reflected the vibrant lights hanging overhead. Behind it, rows of bottles containing colorful liquids glowed softly, some of them fizzing or floating slightly above the shelves, held in place by magnetic fields. Several aliens were already seated, chatting in their strange languages, their multicolored skin shimmering in the lights. Jax moved behind the bar, setting down his satchel and rolling up his sleeves. He had a reputation here, or at least, some whispers from travelers suggested that he had once been someone important, but most of the crowd didn't know him. To them, he was just another human bartender, a harmless, slightly quiet man who could mix a drink and keep the peace. "Hey, human," a tall, three-eyed alien said from the corner, his voice harsh and dripping with amusement. "Think you can handle this place?" Jax looked at him calmly, raising an eyebrow. "I've handled worse," he said quietly, his tone neutral but confident. The alien laughed, a sound like metal scraping metal. "Worse, huh? I've seen humans before, weak, soft. You'll break like the rest of them." Jax smiled faintly and shook his head. He knew the type, loud, brash, eager to mock anyone smaller or weaker. He also knew better than to take the bait immediately. Patience, he reminded himself. Patience had saved him more times than brute strength ever had. A smaller alien with bright green skin slid onto the stool beside the three-eyed one. "He looks funny," the green-skinned alien said, giggling. "A bartender pretending to be tough. I can't wait to see this." Jax simply nodded and began polishing a glass. "First impressions can be deceiving," he said softly, almost to himself. As he worked, he listened. The chatter around him was lively. Merchants argued over prices, travelers boasted about faraway worlds, and guards spoke in low tones about incidents on the outskirts of the outpost. A few aliens seemed nervous, glancing toward the entrance repeatedly. Jax paid attention to all of it. He had learned that observing quietly could tell you more than shouting ever could. A sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of rowdy travelers barged in, laughing loudly, knocking over a display of floating fruit. The alien guards stationed at the door immediately moved to intercept them, but they were slower than the group. "Smooth," Jax murmured, setting down the glass. He didn't move immediately, not yet. He liked to gauge situations first. The rowdy aliens waved their tentacle-like arms, pointing at Jax. "Hey, bartender," one shouted. "Are you even ready to handle this mess, or should we find someone stronger?" The alien guards at the door looked at Jax expectantly. Clearly, they thought he might struggle. Jax simply smiled. "I think I can manage," he said calmly. The rowdy group advanced closer, clearly looking for trouble. Jax moved slowly, deliberately, stepping between the intruders and a small group of frightened merchants. His movements were smooth, controlled, and precise. He didn't strike, didn't raise his voice. He simply guided them away from the crowd, using leverage, momentum, and careful timing to redirect them without harm. The aliens were confused. They expected a fight, a display of force, but Jax moved like water, flowing around their attacks, guiding them until they stumbled and fell onto padded mats the outpost used for practice duels. No one was hurt, but the group was thoroughly disoriented. The alien guards finally caught up, breathing heavily. Who are you?" one of them stammered, clearly shaken. Jax smiled faintly, returning to the bar. "Just someone who likes to keep things calm," he said. He picked up a glass, polished it, and slid it across the bar to a waiting customer as if nothing had happened. The crowd murmured. Whispers began spreading. "Did you see that? The human moved like a shadow. He's no ordinary bartender." Jax ignored the attention, focusing instead on his work. His past as Earth's deadliest fighter was a story no one here needed to know, at least, not yet. He had learned long ago that humility and patience were more powerful than boasting. As the day wore on, more travelers came and went. Some were curious about Jax, asking about his home planet. Others tried to provoke him, teasing him about human weakness. He met each challenge with calm words, careful actions, or a polite smile. Near dusk, a young alien child approached the bar, eyes wide with curiosity. "Can you really fight all those scary monsters?" the child asked softly. Jax crouched slightly to meet the child's gaze. "Sometimes," he said gently, "but fighting isn't always the answer. Sometimes the right move is knowing how to stay safe and protect others." The child nodded, clearly impressed. "You're strong but also smart," Jax chuckled quietly. "Strength is nothing without wisdom," he said, standing and returning to his work. As the sun, or rather the twin suns of the planet, set beyond the outpost walls, Jax paused to look outside. Ships glided in and out of the landing pads, lights blinking in the twilight. The outpost was alive, chaotic, and beautiful all at once. He felt a small smile tug at his lips. This place, he realized, might just need someone like him. Someone who could handle chaos without becoming part of it. Someone who could protect without harming unnecessarily. And though the alien guards still mocked him, unaware of his past, Jax knew that patience, observation, and a steady hand would reveal the truth in time. After all, legends were never loud. They were patient, precise, and always unexpected. The night settled over the outpost, and Jax wiped down the last of the glasses. The crowd thinned, and a quiet sense of peace settled in. He leaned back on a stool, taking a deep breath. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new travelers, and perhaps even trouble. But he was ready. Calm, focused, and prepared, Jax Mercer, the unassuming bartender, was exactly where he needed to be. Little did anyone know, the quiet human behind the bar was not just a simple bartender. He was a master of combat, a strategist, and a protector whose legend would soon reach every corner of the galaxy. But for now, he smiled, poured a drink for a late-night customer, and enjoyed the peace of a job well done. The morning sun of Solara Outpost rose slowly, casting warm golden light over the metallic walls and docking bays. Jax Mercer arrived at the bar earlier than usual, polishing the counter and arranging bottles in their perfect rows. The previous night had been calm, almost peaceful, but Jax knew better than to assume that the day would stay that way. In a place like this, trouble often found you before you found it. By mid-morning, the bar had begun to fill with travelers from nearby planets. Merchants carrying exotic goods chatted with pilots who had just completed long interstellar journeys. The air was alive with laughter, the hiss of mechanical doors, and the occasional clatter of objects falling from overloaded trays. Jax moved smoothly among the patrons, serving drinks with practiced efficiency, listening to conversations without being intrusive. Near the entrance, the same rowdy group from yesterday had returned. They were taller and broader than most of the outpost's inhabitants, their colorful skin patterns marking them as part of a gang known for causing trouble wherever they went. "Look who's here," one of them said, a long-necked alien with orange scales and sharp teeth. "The human bartender, still polishing glasses, I see." Jax didn't respond immediately. He kept his hands on the counter, cleaning a glass with a calm precision that almost seemed hypnotic. "Good morning," he said quietly. "Can I get you something?" The gang laughed, a sound that echoed through the bar. "You think drinks will save you today, human?" Another sneered. "We're here to see if you're as weak as you look." The alien guards at the door glanced nervously at Jax, as if expecting him to show some reaction. They had started to understand that this human was not ordinary, but how extraordinary he was remained a mystery. Jack straightened slightly, maintaining a relaxed posture. "I don't want trouble," he said, "but I also won't step aside if someone tries to hurt others here." The rowdy group grinned, clearly seeing his calmness as fear. "Bold words for someone who looks like he can barely lift a tray," the orange-scaled alien mocked. Jax let out a quiet chuckle. "Sometimes, strength isn't what you see on the outside." The gang's leader, a massive alien with 4 arms and violet skin, stepped forward. "Then let's see if you're really strong. A simple challenge," he said, his voice deep and threatening. "A test of skill." The bar went silent. Patrons paused in their conversations, curious to see what would happen next. Jax didn't flinch. He calmly set down the glass he had been polishing and faced the alien. "A challenge is fine as long as no one gets hurt," he said. "We can settle this with skill, not damage." The leader's multiple eyes narrowed. "Skill, huh? You'll regret saying that if you lose." Jax took a deep breath. He didn't need to prove anything yet, but he knew that a display of his abilities, careful, controlled, and without harm, would teach these aliens a valuable lesson. The challenge was set in the main hall of the outpost. It was a circular arena, with padded floors and plenty of space to move. A crowd gathered, curious and excited, forming a ring around the participants. Jax faced the leader and the other gang members, his posture calm, almost meditative. The first alien lunged forward with surprising speed. Jax sidestepped smoothly, guiding the alien past him without using force, and the padded floor absorbed the alien's stumble. The crowd gasped. No one had expected him to be so agile. "Is that all you've got?" the leader taunted. Jax shook his head slowly. "No, I'm just getting started." The aliens tried again, this time in coordinated attacks. They rushed at him from multiple directions, swinging arms, kicking, and attempting to overwhelm him. Jax moved like water, using each movement to redirect their energy. He didn't strike them aggressively. He simply used balance, leverage, and timing to guide their force safely to the ground or away from him. The crowd murmured in awe. Every move Jax made seemed effortless yet precise. The aliens, who had come expecting a simple display of human weakness, were now struggling to keep up. They weren't hurt, but their confidence was shaken. "Impossible," one of the aliens whispered. He's too fast." Jax's eyes remained calm, scanning the movements of every opponent. His mind calculated angles, weight, and momentum with an instinctive precision that few could match. Years of training, battles, and strategy had honed him into someone whose physical and mental skills were unmatched. The leader growled in frustration and tried a more aggressive approach. 4 arms moved simultaneously, swinging and blocking. Jax countered without effort, using the alien's momentum against him, spinning him gently to the floor where he landed on the padded surface. The crowd erupted in whispers and cheers. Even the alien guards who had mocked him yesterday now looked on with newfound respect. This was not a simple bartender. This was a master of skill, a strategist who could control a room without causing harm. "Enough," the leader shouted, finally halting his gang. "You win, human, but this doesn't mean you are safe forever." Jax bowed his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement and respect. "I'm not looking for enemies," he said softly. "I only want peace." The leader and his group retreated, grumbling but clearly impressed. The crowd dispersed slowly, some still whispering about the incredible display they had just witnessed. Jax returned to the bar, wiping his hands and resuming his work as if nothing had happened. A few curious patrons approached him. "That was amazing," one said, eyes wide. "How did you do that without hurting anyone?" Jax smiled faintly. "Control is more important than force," he explained. "You don't need to hurt others to show strength. You only need skill and patience." An alien merchant with blue feathers leaned closer. "You're not just a bartender, are you?" he asked quietly. Jax shook his head. "Just someone who wants to help when needed, that's all." Despite his modest words, news of his skill spread quickly through the outpost. By mid-afternoon, almost everyone knew about the human bartender who had faced down a gang of troublemakers without a scratch. Alien guards nodded in approval when they saw him, and travelers whispered stories of his calm precision and skill. Jax didn't let the attention go to his head. He continued his work, pouring drinks, serving meals, and listening. But he paid careful attention to every detail, noting which aliens were friendly, which were curious, and which still harbored doubt or malice. Knowledge, he knew, was just as important as strength. Late in the day, the gang leader returned, this time alone. He approached Jax quietly, no longer boasting. You are not like any human I have met," he admitted, his tone grudgingly respectful. "I underestimated you." Jax nodded politely. "It's easy to misjudge someone by their appearance," he said. "Strength comes in many forms, not just size or teeth or claws." The alien paused, then bowed slightly, a rare gesture of respect among his species. "I see that now," he said softly before walking away. Jax exhaled slowly, returning to his work. He knew that this display had done more than defend the bar. It had changed perceptions. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, seen as small, weak, or unremarkable. But here, in the Solara outpost, Jax had shown that humans were clever, disciplined, and capable of extraordinary skill when needed. As night approached, the bar quieted down. Jax cleaned the remaining glasses and prepared the space for closing. The patrons had left, leaving only a few lingering aliens who nodded in respect as they passed him. Jax looked out through the wide windows of the bar. The twin suns had set, leaving the sky a deep purple, dotted with distant stars and passing ships. The outpost, bustling and chaotic during the day, now seemed calm and peaceful. He allowed himself a small smile. The challenge had been met without unnecessary conflict. His skills had been revealed without harming anyone. And most importantly, humans' reputation had grown, just a little in the eyes of those who had doubted them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new travelers, and perhaps even more tests of skill and patience. But Jax was ready. Calm, focused, and quietly confident, he returned to the bar counter, polishing the last bottle and preparing a fresh drink for a night traveler. He had proven today that appearances could deceive. That calmness and skill often outweighed brute strength. And that humanity, underestimated as it often was, could rise to meet any challenge with honor and precision. Jax Mercer, the unassuming bartender, had taken the first step in showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The Solara outpost woke to another busy day. Traders shouted over the noise of arriving ships, merchants argued over exotic goods, and travelers from countless worlds moved through the hallways in hurried steps. The hum of machinery and the clatter of landing pads created a constant background rhythm, like the heartbeat of the bustling outpost. Jax Mercer arrived at the bar before dawn, as was his habit. He always liked the early hours when the light was soft and the outpost was still settling into the chaos of the day. It gave him time to prepare, observe, and think. Today, he sensed, would not be as calm as yesterday. As he polished the bar and arranged bottles, he noticed a group of travelers entering the main hall. They were heavily armored, clearly trained for conflict, but their energy was not one of friendly trading or casual travel. Their movements were sharp, deliberate, and the way they scanned the crowd suggested they were searching for someone or something. Jax's eyes narrowed slightly. He recognized the signs. These were not ordinary troublemakers. These were professionals. He had dealt with people like this before, long ago, in a past he rarely spoke of. A time when his calm, careful demeanor was backed by skills that few could match. A time when he had been Earth's deadliest fighter. But that past was hidden behind the simple face of a bartender. Here in this outpost, no one knew, and for now he intended to keep it that way. The travelers approached the bar, their presence causing a noticeable tension in the room. Some patrons stopped what they were doing, eyes widening as they sensed the silent authority radiating from the newcomers. One of them, a tall alien with dark green scales and 4 arms, spoke. "We are looking for someone," he said, his voice calm but firm. "A human male." "We have reason to believe he is here." Jax paused, his hand stilling on a glass. He looked at them casually as if he were unsure what they meant. "I don't know who you're looking for," he said lightly. "I'm just the bartender here." The alien's eyes flickered. "Do not lie. We have been sent to recover him. Resistance will not be tolerated." Jax tilted his head slightly, studying them. There was no immediate threat in their tone, yet, but the way they moved suggested skill, preparation, and a willingness to act if needed. He sighed quietly and set the glass down. He had hoped to avoid this, but some things could not be ignored. "Very well," he said softly. "If it's a fight you want, you will find no easy victory here." The group tensed, preparing for action, but before they could make a move, a sudden commotion erupted outside the bar. A rogue gang, larger and more aggressive than the previous group, had attempted to seize control of a portion of the outpost. They charged into the hall, swinging makeshift weapons and shouting threats. Chaos erupted. Patrons scrambled for safety, merchants tried to protect their goods, and the alien guards rushed to intercept the gang. But they were outnumbered, and the gang moved with coordinated precision. Jax's eyes sharpened. This was the moment to act. Calmly, he stepped from behind the bar and moved into the center of the chaos. He did not shout, did not panic, but his presence alone seemed to draw attention. The rogue gang lunged at him, thinking they could overpower a human. Jax moved fluidly, his body a perfect combination of balance, speed, and strength. Each motion was precise. He blocked, dodged, and redirected their force, sending them stumbling onto padded mats or off balance without striking them harshly. The crowd froze, watching in disbelief. This was not just skill, this was mastery. Every move was deliberate, every reaction measured. The rogue gang, confident in their strength, found themselves outmatched by someone they had dismissed as ordinary. Even the alien group that had come to find him watched silently, their eyes widening in recognition. Here was proof of the legendary abilities of the human they sought. They realized now that he was no ordinary bartender, and that whatever they had heard about his past was, in fact, true. Jax's movements were a blend of past experience and present necessity. He had fought in arenas, trained in combat schools, and survived missions that required strategy, patience, and absolute control. All of that knowledge came to life now, not for glory, not for power, but to protect the innocent and restore order. One particularly large alien tried to rush him from the side, swinging a heavy arm at his head. Jax ducked smoothly, grabbed the alien's wrist, and guided him in a controlled arc to the floor. Another gang member attempted a low sweep kick, but Jax stepped aside, shifted his weight, and used a gentle push to send the attacker rolling harmlessly onto the mat. The patrons cheered quietly, though some remained too stunned to speak. The alien guards began assisting, but it was clear that Jax had taken control of the situation. The rogue gang, once so confident, began to falter. They could not match the human's agility, strategy, or calm determination. As the last of the gang members was subdued, Jax turned to the alien group who had been sent to recover him. Their expressions were a mix of awe, caution, and respect. "You see now," Jax said softly, "why I am not to be underestimated, but I am not here for conflict. I protect, I guide, and I maintain balance. That is all." The lead alien, his green scales glinting in the light, nodded slowly. "We understand," he said. "Your reputation is well earned. We did not expect this." Jax smiled faintly, returning to the bar. He wiped his hands, adjusted a glass, and resumed his work as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Yet the impression left on the outpost was permanent. Humans, long underestimated, had proven once again that they were capable, disciplined, and formidable. The rogue gang was escorted away by the outpost guards, grumbling but unharmed. Patrons returned to their activities, some glancing at Jax with newfound respect, others whispering stories that would soon travel across planets. By the evening, the alien group that had come seeking him approached quietly. They had not yet revealed their purpose in full, but they now knew one thing: this human bartender was someone no one should take lightly. Jax studied them carefully. "You have questions," he said simply. They nodded. "Yes, we want to know who you really are, why you hide your abilities, and why your presence here has such an impact." Jax considered his words carefully. "I am Jax Mercer," he said finally. "I am a protector. My past is not important here. What matters is that no one is harmed and that balance is maintained. That is why I am here behind this bar doing this job." The lead alien's eyes softened. "Even so, your skills, they are extraordinary. Few humans could accomplish what you have done today." Jax shrugged lightly. "Extraordinary or not, it is only a matter of control, focus, and intention. Anyone could train to be capable if they dedicate themselves fully. I chose this life because it allows me to help quietly, without seeking fame or recognition." The aliens nodded, understanding at last that Jax's power was tempered by wisdom. Strength alone was meaningless without purpose, and the human before them possessed both in equal measure. As night fell over the Solara outpost, Jax prepared for the final patrons of the day. The hallways grew quieter, ships left and landed with gentle hums, and the stars outside sparkled like distant gems in the deep purple sky. He glanced at the alien group one last time. "Remember this," he said softly. "Power is not what you show others. It is what you control within yourself, and how you use it to protect and guide those around you." The aliens nodded again, leaving the bar with newfound respect and understanding. Jax returned to his duties, polishing the bar and serving drinks with the same calm efficiency as before. But now, the knowledge of his skill and wisdom had spread. The patrons, guards, and even travelers would carry stories of the human bartender who had single-handedly protected the outpost, controlled chaos, and revealed a past that was far greater than anyone could have imagined. And for Jax Mercer, it was enough. He had protected the innocent, shown the value of patience and control, and reminded everyone, alien and human alike, that even those who seemed ordinary could be extraordinary. The night settled over the outpost, calm and peaceful once more. Jax wiped down the last glass, glanced at the stars, and allowed himself a quiet smile. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and dangers, but for now the balance had been maintained. He returned to his stool, leaning back with a sense of quiet satisfaction. His past had been revealed, his skills acknowledged, and his purpose reaffirmed. But most importantly, the people of the Solara outpost had learned something invaluable. Never underestimate a human, and never judge by appearances alone. And as the stars twinkled outside, Jax Mercer prepared himself for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, confident, patient, and ready for anything. The morning at Solara Outpost began quietly. The twin suns of the planet had barely risen, painting the polished metal walls in gentle shades of gold and pink. Jax Mercer arrived at the bar early, as was his habit, and immediately began organizing supplies, polishing glasses, and preparing drinks. The events of the previous days had changed the mood of the outpost. Whispers of the human bartender who had faced rogue gangs and controlled chaos without harm had spread quickly. Patrons now looked at him differently. Some still approached with curiosity, others with caution. Yet everyone carried a subtle respect in their eyes. Even the alien guards who had once underestimated him now nodded politely whenever they passed. Jax moved with calm efficiency, pouring drinks and listening quietly to conversations. He knew that respect was not simply given. It had to be earned through action, patience, and integrity. And though he had shown his skill, earning the deeper trust of the outpost's residents would require more than combat. It would require wisdom. By mid-morning, a delegation of alien officials arrived. Their ship landed at the docking bay with a soft hum, and they walked into the bar with a measured, serious air. The crowd parted slightly as the aliens entered. They were representatives from the Regional Governing Council, tasked with ensuring peace and safety at the outpost. Their arrival was unusual, and a sense of tension filled the room. Jax looked up from the counter, wiping a glass carefully. "Good morning," he said politely. "How may I help you?" One of the officials, a tall alien with blue-striped skin and golden eyes, stepped forward. "We have come to assess recent events," the alien said. "Rumors have reached us about a human, about your role in maintaining order at this outpost." Jax nodded calmly. "I try to help when needed," he replied. "I do not seek recognition or conflict. I only act when necessary to protect others." The officials exchanged glances. They had expected exaggerated reports, but Jax's quiet demeanor and measured words immediately drew their attention. One of them asked, "Is it true that you faced a large group of rogue elements and prevented harm without causing injury?" Jax shrugged lightly. "Yes. My goal is always to protect, not to hurt. Violence should be the last option, not the first." The alien delegation studied him carefully. They were not used to such humility and control, especially from a human. Their species often measured strength by display, size, or aggression. Yet here was a human whose skill, strategy, and composure had accomplished more than brute force ever could. One of the officials leaned closer. "Why do you hide your abilities?" they asked. "Why not demonstrate them openly?" Jax considered the question thoughtfully. "Because true strength does not need to be shown to be respected," he said softly. "It is what you do with it that matters. My abilities exist to protect, to guide, and to maintain peace. That is all." The officials nodded slowly. It was clear that Jax's words carried weight. His calmness, wisdom, and skill had earned their attention, and they recognized that he was more than a simple bartender. As the morning passed, Jax continued his work behind the bar. The officials observed discreetly, noting his interactions with patrons, his care for the outpost's well-being, and the calm authority he carried without arrogance. Later, a group of young alien travelers approached the bar. They were hesitant, clearly intimidated by the presence of the delegation, but they gathered courage to speak to Jax. "Sir," one of them said nervously, we heard what you did. How did you handle such a dangerous situation without hurting anyone?" Jax smiled gently. "By staying calm, observing carefully, and thinking ahead," he replied. "Strength is important, but wisdom is more valuable. Always consider the consequences of your actions. Protect others whenever you can, and avoid unnecessary harm." The young aliens nodded eagerly, absorbing his words. It was clear that Jax's presence was already influencing the next generation, teaching them that courage and intelligence could surpass raw strength. Meanwhile, the rogue gang from before had been confined to a holding area. Their leader approached Jax cautiously, seeking acknowledgement. You are different from anyone I have ever faced," the alien admitted, his tone respectful. "We underestimated you. Now we understand." Jax nodded. "You are not my enemy," he said. I only acted to protect the outpost. Learn from your mistakes, and you will be stronger in the future." The alien leader left with a deep bow, an unusual gesture of respect in his culture. Jax returned to his work, pouring drinks with quiet precision. By afternoon, the officials requested a private audience with Jax. They had questions, yes, but also wanted to understand how he maintained order so effectively. "You have done something remarkable here," the blue-striped official said. "You have earned the trust of the people and the respect of those who doubted you. How do you accomplish this?" Jax leaned against the counter, hands folded neatly. "It's simple," he said. "Observe first. Act only when necessary. Protect others without seeking recognition. Strength alone is meaningless without wisdom and integrity." The officials were impressed. They had seen many strong beings, but few who combined skill, patience, and ethical judgment in such a perfect balance. "Your presence has changed perceptions," the lead official said. "Humans are often underestimated in our region, but you have shown that they are capable, disciplined, and honorable. Your example will be remembered." Jax nodded modestly. "That is enough. I do not need titles or praise. I only wish for peace and safety for everyone here." The officials smiled faintly. They had come expecting reports of chaos and conflict, but instead found a human whose calm authority had brought order and respect to the outpost. They left the bar quietly, spreading word of Jax's wisdom and skill to other parts of the outpost and beyond. Later that evening, the bar quieted down as the last patrons prepared to leave. Jax polished the counter one final time, glancing out at the stars through the wide windows. The docking bays were calm, and ships glided silently in the fading light. A young alien merchant approached him. "Sir, your actions today and your words have inspired many," the merchant said softly. "We will remember what you have taught us." Jax smiled faintly. "Remember this, respect and strength go hand in hand, but kindness and wisdom guide true power. Never underestimate the value of helping others." The merchant nodded deeply, clearly moved by the human's words. As the night settled over Solara Outpost, Jax prepared for the final duties of the day. Patrons had left, ships had departed, and a calm sense of peace had returned. The outpost now viewed him not just as a bartender, but as a protector, a mentor, and an example of humanity's capability. Even the alien guards who had once mocked him now carried a quiet respect when they saw him. Travelers whispered stories of the human who had faced chaos without harm, who had earned the admiration of both friends and foes. Jax Mercer leaned back on a stool, allowing himself a small, satisfied smile. He had not sought fame or recognition, yet he had achieved both in the most meaningful way, through action, patience, and integrity. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable. Challenges would come and dangers would arise. But for now, Solara Outpost had learned an invaluable lesson. Strength, when combined with wisdom and respect, could achieve more than raw power alone. And Jax, the unassuming bartender, had proven that humans were more than their appearance, more than what others assumed. Humans could rise to meet challenges with skill, intelligence, and honor, quietly earning respect wherever they went. The night grew deep, stars twinkling in the sky above the outpost. Jax finished his work, cleaned the last glass, and poured a small drink for himself. He watched the stars, calm and reflective, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But whatever they were, he would meet them with the same patience, skill, and integrity that had earned the respect of the entire outpost. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's quiet strength had begun to leave its mark. The Solara Outpost awoke to the soft glow of twin suns, casting warm light across the polished metal walkways and docking bays. Today, the outpost felt different, calmer, more organized, and infused with a subtle sense of respect that had been absent before. Whispers about the human bartender, Jax Mercer, had spread beyond the bar and into every corner of the bustling hub. His name was no longer spoken with doubt or mockery, but with admiration. Jax arrived at the bar early as always. He began his morning routine, arranging bottles, polishing glasses, and preparing drinks for travelers who would soon arrive. Though he had achieved recognition among the guards and officials, Jax remained humble. To him, respect was earned through consistent actions, not titles or praise. As the day progressed, a diverse crowd filled the bar. Merchants from distant planets brought exotic goods, travelers shared stories of distant worlds, and families moved carefully through the hallways. All eyes occasionally drifted to Jax, some with curiosity, some with admiration, and a few with silent awe. A small group of alien children approached him, their eyes wide with wonder. "Sir," one asked shyly, "are the stories about you true? Did you really face the rogue gang alone and protect everyone?" Jack smiled gently, crouching to meet their gaze. "Yes," he said softly. "But remember, strength is not about fighting alone. True strength is about protecting others, thinking carefully, and using wisdom to guide your actions." The children nodded eagerly. "We want to be like you," one exclaimed. "Then start by helping those around you," Jax advised. Courage and kindness go hand in hand. Never underestimate what a small, thoughtful action can accomplish. Word of Jax's influence continued to spread. By midday, the alien officials who had previously observed him returned with a few of their colleagues. Their demeanor was respectful, their curiosity genuine. "You have done something remarkable," the blue-striped official said. "Your skill and wisdom have restored balance and order, but more than that, you have inspired everyone here. The outpost now sees humans differently thanks to your actions." Jax nodded modestly. "I did what I could. Humans are capable of much more than others assume. We can think, plan, and protect, and sometimes quiet action can accomplish more than force." The officials exchanged approving glances. "Your example will be shared across our region," one said. "Other outposts and colonies will hear of the human who maintained peace without causing harm. That is a powerful legacy." Jax returned to his work, serving drinks with calm efficiency. Yet he remained alert, observing the comings and goings of travelers, noting tensions before they could escalate, and offering a kind word to anyone who seemed troubled. His reputation was growing, but his purpose remained simple: protect, guide, and teach when possible. Later in the afternoon, a group of travelers arrived from a distant system. They had heard rumors of a human who could face chaos with unmatched skill and wisdom. They were skeptical at first, expecting arrogance or aggression. But when they saw Jax calmly helping a merchant untangle a shipment of goods and redirecting children away from a slippery floor, their skepticism vanished. One of the travelers, a tall alien with copper-colored scales, approached him. "So, you are the human they speak of?" he asked. Jax nodded politely. "I am, but I am just someone who helps when needed. That is all." The traveler studied him carefully, clearly impressed. "Your reputation is well earned. I have heard of humans being underestimated across the galaxy, but you prove that perception can be wrong." Jax smiled faintly. "Perception is only a starting point," he said. "Actions reveal truth. Humans can achieve great things when we use skill, wisdom, and care to guide our choices." As evening approached, a quiet calm settled over the bar. The twin suns had set, leaving a sky filled with stars and distant lights from ships gliding past the outpost. Patrons had departed, and the bar was nearly empty, except for a few lingering travelers and the alien officials who had come to learn from Jax. One of the officials, the blue-striped leader, spoke softly. "We have observed many species, but few combine skill, patience, and moral judgment as you do. You have earned more than respect. You have set a standard." Jax nodded. "A standard is only meaningful if it encourages others to act wisely. My purpose is to show that even those who seem ordinary can make a difference. Humans are not the strongest by size or power, but we are capable of intelligence, discipline, and courage." The officials were silent for a moment, considering his words. Then the green-scaled alien leader who had been quiet until now stepped forward. "We will carry your example to other outposts. Your influence will grow, and humans will be seen differently because of your actions." Jack smiled faintly. "That is enough," he said. "I do not seek fame or recognition. I only hope that my actions inspire others to act with care and wisdom." As night deepened, a soft hum filled the bar. Ships landed and departed in quiet succession, travelers moved about their business, and the stars outside twinkled like distant promises. Jax wiped down the last glass, poured a small drink for himself, and gazed at the peaceful scene. It had been a journey of patience, skill, and quiet action. From the first day he had arrived at the outpost, to the challenges posed by rogue gangs and skeptical aliens, Jax had maintained calm and integrity. In doing so, he had revealed the potential of humans to the galaxy, capable, disciplined, and honorable. Suddenly, a young alien approached, holding a small drawing. "Sir," the child said shyly, "we drew you." Jax took the paper gently. It was a simple sketch, but it showed him behind the bar, calmly serving drinks while aliens and humans smiled around him. "Thank you," he said warmly. "This is wonderful." The child beamed. "We want to be like you, brave, smart, and kind." Jax crouched to the child's level. "Remember this, bravery is not just fighting, and intelligence is not just knowledge. True bravery is protecting others, and true intelligence is knowing the right thing to do, and always act with kindness." The child nodded eagerly, clutching the drawing to their chest. Jack smiled, standing again, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. Word of Jax's deeds continued to spread across the outpost and to neighboring colonies. Humans who had once been underestimated were now seen in a new light. Stories circulated of the bartender who had faced chaos without harm, who had earned the respect of alien officials, guards, and travelers alike. Jax Mercer had become more than a legend. He had become a symbol of humanity's potential. By the late evening, the bar was empty, save for Jax. He sat on his usual stool, watching the stars. The outpost was peaceful, calm, and orderly, a reflection of his careful guidance. The alien guards no longer mocked him. Travelers spoke his name with admiration. Even the rogue gang, now confined and reflecting on their actions, acknowledged his skill and wisdom. Jax poured a small drink for himself and raised it slightly toward the stars. "To humanity," he said softly. "May we always rise to meet challenges with courage, wisdom, and honor." As the night deepened, Jax Mercer leaned back, relaxed yet vigilant. The galaxy was vast, full of opportunities and challenges, but he was ready for whatever came next. His skills, patience, and wisdom had already begun to change perceptions. The reputation of humans as capable, disciplined, and honorable beings was solidifying, not through words, but through action. He knew that the outpost, its residents, and visitors would carry his example forward. Children would grow up inspired by his calm courage. Officials would consider humans with respect. Travelers would tell tales of a bartender who could face chaos, protect the innocent, and teach wisdom without raising a hand unnecessarily. In the quiet night, Jax Mercer reflected on his journey. He had arrived at Solara Outpost as an unassuming bartender, underestimated by many, mocked by some, and watched with skepticism by others. Yet through patience, skill, and quiet action, he had transformed perception. He had shown the galaxy that humans were more than appearances, more than assumptions, and far more capable than most believed. And though he remained behind the bar, serving drinks and listening quietly to the stories of travelers, his legacy was spreading across the stars. Humans were no longer merely observers in the galaxy. They were respected participants, capable of extraordinary skill, wisdom, and courage. As dawn approached, painting the sky with gentle shades of orange and purple, Jax Mercer finished his duties for the night. He looked out at the docking bays, where ships glimmered under the rising suns, and smiled faintly. Tomorrow would bring new travelers, new challenges, and new opportunities to protect and guide. But tonight the outpost was at peace, and humanity's reputation had grown, quietly and powerfully, under the steady hands of a bartender who was far more than he appeared. The stars shone above, and for the first time in a long while, Jax felt a deep satisfaction. He had proven that strength, skill, wisdom, and kindness could coexist. He had shown that humans, underestimated though they might be, could rise to any challenge. And he had left a legacy that would continue long after the sun set on Solara Outpost. Jax Mercer, the unassuming human bartender, had become a symbol, a reminder that ordinary appearances could hide extraordinary potential, and that courage and integrity could inspire an entire galaxy.